tuning into this video. I'm Dr. Rita Louise, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about chakras. Chakras. So what is a chakra? A chakra is an energy center within the body. It is a Sanskrit word that means wheel. And the job of the chakras is to process information from the world around us. There are 7 chakras that run up and down the spine, as well as hundreds of other chakras within the body. There are chakras in the hands and the feet, as well as what would be parallel to the acupuncture points that you would see coming out of Chinese medicine. Each of these are centers of activity within the body. But I'm going to focus primarily on the 7 chakras that run up and down the spine and provide you with some insights as to what they do, what their job is, what kind of information they process for us. So I'm going to start at the base of the spine and work my way up. And so starting at the base of the spine, we have the first chakra. The first chakra is responsible for our survival information. It's associated with the adrenal glands as well as our fight or flight mechanism. And so if something happens to us, if we're walking down the street and some scary person comes up near us, our first chakra, chakras around, our first chakra will begin to close up, or begin to open up, because now we are able to take in information, all kinds of information from the world around us. And so a pin might drop 3 blocks away, but we're going to be able to hear that, because that chakra has expanded and is now processing and receiving a lot more information than we had before. In turn, we can have it where the chakra shuts down and gets very small. And that is also a survival instinct. And so when we're afraid, when we're scared, when we don't want to spend any money, because our job is threatened. So we're working and they're having layoffs and we're afraid that we're going to get let go. How are we going to pay the rent? How are we going to pay our bills? Where am I going to live? What's going to happen to me? Those are all survival comments and words. And that chakra, instead of being expanded and bringing in all kinds of information, shuts down a lot. Physiologically speaking, the first chakra is associated with the large intestine. And so someone with a very small first chakra might be, and excuse my kind of French here, a little bit anal retentive, because that's tied to the first chakra. Anyway, moving up the spine, we come to the second chakra. It sits just below the belly button. It's tied to the reproductive organs, and as well as in women, the baby-making machine. And there's a number of energies that is processed through the second chakra. One is our creative energy. And so if we want to create something, we're making dinner, so we're in the act of creation, whether we are doing artwork, whether we're writing, it's processed by that chakra, because through that chakra, we are able to give birth into the physical world via the first chakra. And so this is kind of the nurturing center. It's where we take all of that information and manipulate it and do things with it so that it can take form and finally become manifest. Second chakra, one of their abilities. The second chakra is also responsible for our ability to feel energy, to sense energy around us. Now, it's not emotional energy, but it's a felt sense. It's kind of tied to kinesthetics, where we feel things. So, for example, kind of one of my standard examples is, have you ever felt the vibes in a room? Have you ever known someone, like from a feeling level, like they feel really like I know them? But that is that felt sense. Some people tie having a gut reaction or a gut response to this chakra. Many times it's a dual thing between the second and the third chakra, which we're going to come to. But it is, when you're having a gut reaction, that's where it would sit. And so that ability to feel energy has to do with, or is tied to, our ability of clairsentience. And so the word clairsentience means clear feeling. And so if you're feeling the energy in a room, or if you feel someone come up and stand next to you while you're not looking, or whatever that felt sense is, you're having a clairsentient experience. You're having a psychic experience. One of the things I want to share is, if you want to develop your psychic abilities, it's starting to recognize when you're having them and going, hey, I felt that. Ooh, I'm having a psychic experience, because it will open the door for you to have more and more of these experiences. Because remember, it's all about recognizing it. It's about recognizing that you're having the experience, because the information is there. The information is there for the taking. And so it's really more a matter of you recognizing that you're receiving it. Because we receive it, we just don't recognize it most of the time. Moving up the body is the third chakra. The third chakra sits right around the stomach area. And its job is to process our energy as well as direct our power. And so this chakra has two different parts to it. It's the power of control. So if you know people who are control freaks, they have a giant third chakra. Giant third chakra. The more controlling, the bigger the third chakra. And then there are those people that are very passive. And not to say that they're weak, they're just passive. And they might have a very small third chakra. They don't project a lot of their energy. They don't have big energy that they project out into the room and take it over. And I'm sure we all know people like that have big energy. Well, when they have big energy, they have big third chakras. But the third chakra is about our ability to interact with people, use our energy to interact with people, as well as our ability to use our energy for ourselves in the form of willpower. And so if you have good willpower, you have a good third chakra. If your willpower is a little bit lacking, maybe you have some third chakra issues. But then again, people that have good willpower might be on the other side of it. They might have too much willpower, because one of the things that I have found with this chakra is there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance between will and play, or will and allowing. Because when we're doing something that we love, it doesn't require any of our energy. Time goes by. It just happens. One side of the willpower, or one side of will. On the other side, it takes every bit of our energy to make it happen. Personally, when I think of that kind of willpower, filing taxes, cleaning the bathtub, going to work if you don't like your job. That can take every bit of your energy to make it happen. But it's not a healthy energy. There's no play, there's no move, there's no drive tied to it. So it's not good willpower. It's out of balance. So need to be balanced. It's all about balance. Anyway, moving up, fifth chakra is the heart center. I think people have heard that term, heart center. The third chakra is tied to our ability to love ourselves unconditionally. So not a psychic ability like the third chakra, not a psychic ability, but it's about processing information. But it's also about me. This is the center where we define ourselves, because it's from here that we have 3 chakras above and 3 chakras below. And so we can process all of the information throughout our body and ask ourselves, well, what does that have to do with me? Or how do I feel about it? Coming up through the New Age community, one of the things that I learned was, that word affinity, our ability to love other people unconditionally. But I found that there was a travesty to it. Many people are of the opinion that they have to give of themselves without any respect to themselves. And so I studied Kabbalah, which is based on Jewish mysticism and the Tree of Life. And one of the things they talk about with reference to this center and this ability is that you have to be able to love yourself unconditionally before you can love other people. And when you love yourself unconditionally, then you're making conscious choices. Well, is this something I want to do? Well, how does this make me feel? Because once you're congruent with yourself, you can always live with your decision. So if you have friends that want to help you move, and if it's one friend, they might say, hey, can you help me move? And you'll be like, oh, sure, because it's congruent with you and you're good with that decision. And then another friend might ask you to move and there's something just not right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good. It's not uplifting. There's an issue within you, but you need to honor yourself, because you might say yes out of guilt. You might say yes out of manipulation. But what choice are you making? You're making the choice to not love yourself. Not healthy. Not healthy. Always love yourself. Always ask about me. And even though it seems kind of self-centered and it makes it so that you can make a conscious choice and you can make a conscious decision, because you can always live with the decision that you make, even if it's a bad choice. Always. Moving up, fifth chakra. Fifth chakra has to do with clairaudience. Now, clairaudience has to do with our ability to hear energy or subtle energy. And so this can include listening to our inner voice, that dialogue that communicates what I want and what I need. But it also interacts with our ability to hear spirit, whether it's our spirit guides, our angels, extraterrestrials. It has to do with any form of nonverbal communication that we might be receiving. All of this is on a fifth chakra level. I always joke around and talk about people wanting to hear their guides. Well, there's a couple of different issues that go on when people want to hear their guides. First is, you might not be auditory. That might not be the channel that your body operates on the best. For me, not particularly auditory. I am, but if I were to pick which way I want to receive information, auditory is definitely not the way I want it. And so if people aren't hearing their spirit guides, it's one, because they might not be auditory. Two, I think people have a lot of misconceptions of how our guides are going to communicate with us. When we receive information on intuitive levels or on psychic levels, it's subtle. That's why they call it subtle energy, because it's the soft, still voice inside. It's not some loud, booming voice that's coming in with trumpets and sounding the alarm to say, hey, I'm your spirit guide going to be talking to you right now. It doesn't work that way. Well, okay. It's happened to me a couple times that it did work that way, but for the most part, not so much. And usually when I have personally had the loud, booming voice coming through, it was because I really needed to listen to it, because I was going to get myself in a lot of trouble. And thank God I have gotten to the point that I listen, because had I not listened, I know that things would have gone badly. So if you are getting that loud, booming voice in your head telling you, you need to do this, you need to do this, please listen to it and do what it says. Okay, moving up, sixth chakra, that third eye. This has to do with our ability of clairvoyance. And clairvoyance means clear seeing. And it has to do with our ability to see information in our mind's eye. And so many people think that when they receive information on clairvoyant levels, it's just their imagination. I mean, I know I thought that I would see stuff and then it would come true or it would be a reality. And I just thought it was a coincidence. It's like, oh, well, I was just thinking about that. But that is the gift. That is the seeing. And for people that are watching, even as you watch this video, can you see the face of your mother? Can you see the face of your father? Can you see your car in your mind's eye? Can you see your room? Can you see, this is always my favorite, the face of the person you kissed for the first time in your life? That's kind of fun, isn't it? Anyway, but it should be clear, it should be easy, especially for people who really operate on this visual level, because this is giving you an idea that this might be one of your primary channels. And many people are visual in nature. Pretty cool, huh? Moving up is our seventh chakra. It is on the top of the head. And this has to do with our ability to know information off the top of our head. There's the, a birdie told me. But people that receive information on seven chakra levels, they can't explain how they know it. They just know. If you've ever had to work on your car or do some kind of a project that you have no experience in, it might be that you're receiving information in this way, that you can just pick it up and go, oh, well, this is how you do it. And even though there's part of you that's going, I don't even have a clue how I just did that, that's how it is. This is also where people will channel guides or beings, if they're a channel. For me, I joke around and say that my seventh chakra is directly connected to my mouth. So when I have information coming through my seventh chakra, which usually comes through as some kind of a smart comment, I know it is true because it's unfiltered. It is totally unscripted, and it just comes through without being processed through any of the other filters in the body. Because these chakras, they do act as filters. They receive information within a very specific vibratory window. And so, and let's talk about that real quick before we cut out for today. But if you think about your radio, and so the fifth chakra receives auditory information. And so it receives information like a radio. And a radio goes from 88.1 to 107.3. I just made those up. And it can receive any bands inside that frequency range. But your television operates at a much higher vibration, in the gigahertz, or your cell phone's into gigahertz. I don't know. I didn't study this, so I'm just kind of putting it out there. But I think you'll get the idea. And so your sixth chakra will receive visual information because it's vibrating at a different frequency. And the sixth chakra is designed to receive information within a very specific frequency belt. So when combined, you kind of get this multimedia thing, with visual and auditory. And if your second chakra is functioning as well, there is a kinesthetic, there's a feeling level to it also. I've heard of people who have, I call it smell-o-vision, who are actually able to receive psychic information on a smelling sensory way. Some people will actually get tastes in their mouth. So we're not limited to just those seven chakras, but to a wide variety, and having them interact with each other and play with each other and give you a feeling with an image, or a feeling with an auditory, or an auditory with a feeling. And figuring out which channels you operate on is kind of the first step to understanding your psychic nature. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we have more coming, more details into our subtle anatomy and psychic abilities, as well as way more stuff. So please subscribe to this channel. check out the other ones in this playlist. I would love it. Also, if you have a question about psychic abilities or subtle energies, please drop me a note. One last thing, or two last things. Please friend us on Facebook, Rita Louise, Dr. Rita Louise on Facebook, or please share this video with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'd appreciate it. Anyway, till next time, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. Be blessed.